thought I'd do a little video to unload some of my thoughts I've been having about my experience with carpal tunnel symptoms, tendonitis, and thoracic outlet syndrome, and how I kind of figured out ways of playing guitar, because that's what I love to do. I love to play guitar. I'm not a doctor. Don't take any of this as medical advice. I'm just documenting my experience and possible avenues for research for other people and kind of hypothesizing for my own research. If you haven't seen my previous video, I'm building a guitar at the moment and I'm experimenting with different ergonomic design choices. Some are typical and others are not. And one of those decisions I made with the design of this guitar was to design it with a really, really thick neck profile because of my experience with carpal tunnel symptoms. I do have carpal tunnel genetically, but it's a long story. I was having a discussion about it in the comments of my last video. Basically, most of my issues with my hand come from up here in my neck and my thoracic outlet, as opposed to here in my carpal tunnel. I've done a nerve conduction survey and the thickening of the lining in my carpal tunnel was only causing acute symptoms. And I'm on a huge tangent now and I've completely lost my train of thought. But when the thumb is in flexion whilst playing guitar, as that is taking place, you're actually closing off the carpal tunnel and all of those tendons and ligaments are getting, squished in there, and it can aggravate things. And it's something I've, noticed. Most of my guitar playing happened between the end of high school up until I started university. I pretty much played guitar all day, every day. And yeah, the tendonitis was bound to happen. I just didn't know it at the time. But something that I was finding was that I was playing a Charvel Pro Mod DK24 and it has a slim shred neck. I might have a video, I can chuck it up on the screen, of the guitar. I loved that guitar. I hated the nickel frets, and I also found that initially I really liked the thin neck profile, but over time I started to get a bit of a hunch that it probably was having a negative impact on something going on here. Kind of blew it off. I was like, yeah, toughen up, whatever. Kept playing, and eventually one day, this is just retelling how I stopped playing guitar, but I was jamming with my really good mate Tom. I just stopped playing all of a sudden because my pinky was like all of a sudden stuck to my ring finger and I had all this tingling shoot up through my fingers. It was unpleasant, painful. Woke up the next day and it was still painful. I had pain all down the back of my hand, tingling through here again with whatever I was doing, gripping, anything, It was bad. But yeah, carpal tunnel runs in my family, but a lot of that was aggravated by my excessive guitar playing, not getting enough sleep, bad nutrition, bad mental health, just not looking after myself. That flexion is more and more extreme the thinner the guitar neck is. Even just a few millimeters makes a big difference for the carpal tunnel. Once I started getting back into playing guitar, it was still painful at the time because I was going insane from not playing guitar. So I was playing with these tendonitis and carpal tunnel symptoms, which you should absolutely not do ever because it will make it worse. One of the things I did to try and work around it was to adapt my playing technique. I did a lot of research on posture, left hand technique, right hand technique, shoulder positioning. One thing I was noticing a lot was with the guitarists I like Pliny and Guthrie Govan, both do this thing with their thumb positioning. It's more of a pinch that way. Their thumb is actually, I might have to put a diagram up on the screen, but it's almost as if they're pulling with their thumb rather than squeezing, they're pulling. And that was kind of their thumb positioning, do a bend. That was one technique I did to change what I was doing. With this guitar that I'm building, my theory is that a thicker neck profile it'll reduce symptoms of carpal tunnel aggravation. I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, but of course you need to remember you need to play in moderation, you need to drink lots of water, have good diet, have good posture. It's another thing. Posture has a huge impact on all the nerves that run down through your thoracic outlet, through your shoulder and into your arm. My posture was terrible for the years leading up to my main injury. And now I've barely stopped thinking about my posture and it's made a huge difference. So I'll do a little bit of a demonstration as to the thicker neck profile being beneficial hypothesis. I'll just get my guitar and a ruler. This guitar did feel like it was helping in comparison to the Charvel, but I want to try and take that a step further. Guitar that I'm building at the moment has a 1.2 inch neck thickness. I'm going to slap a ruler on the back of the neck and place that ruler under my thumb, creating the feeling of a thicker neck. And what that'll do is actually promote adduction rather than abduction, which should reduce the stress being put on the carpal tunnel and the nerves that are passing through that. Yeah, so that's my theory. A thicker neck profile combined with a pulling of the thumb, combined with your typical thumb techniques. Obviously, your thumb can't stay in that position all the time. That's where I try and set my default playing position to be in my left hand. And I've found that it allows me to play for a lot longer with a lot less pain. It's unproven. This is not medical advice. Been my experience. But yeah, it's one of the many things that I've found to help. I went and saw so many doctors and physios, neurologists, and there was a lot of different diagnoses of different things. Yeah, I was completely lost. I had no idea what was going on. And I eventually stumbled across Thoracic Outlet Syndrome one night, scrolling through Google Scholar, trying to find different nerve-related injuries, tendon-related injuries, health conditions, trying to figure out why my hand was still hurting, 6-12 months after an injury. So I did a bunch of reading about carpal tunnel, tendonitis, trigger finger, neuritis, and came across Thoracic Outlet Syndrome. And found that my first hunch was that it was probably muscular because I've had back problems and knee problems in the past, which were caused by muscle tension, bad posture, and muscular imbalances in my body. Everyone has, well, most people have it. It was just something I wasn't aware of. I'd just kind of ignored. But yeah, after finding Thoracic Outlet Syndrome and then speaking to a bunch of those doctors and physios again about it, they seem to agree that is likely, that is what I have. But this may be something I could talk about in other videos, more of a Thoracic Outlet Syndrome themed video. Actually, I may as well talk about it now. The cause of my Thoracic Outlet Syndrome was just excessive tension and muscle tension. A lot of anxiety, and your body responds in a similar way, I guess. When you're anxious, it gets anxious and uptight, up in my shoulders at least. So it took me a couple of months to figure out how to stop it. Initially, I was trying to do stretches like these, which wasn't enough. I tried using a tennis ball, different muscles in my back, lots of shoulder mobility exercises, which did kind of help, but not really. Lots of muscle building in my back, which also really helps. The muscles between your shoulder blades, it's really important to have them properly developed because they'll help you with your posture. But the number one thing that helped me with Thoracic Outlet Syndrome was using a foam roller on this area here, right there, and putting all of my body weight on it. So I'd go on all fours on the ground. I looked stupid doing that until I felt like I was going to throw up, and then I'd swap to the other side, do that a couple of times, and just drink as much water as I could physically drink. Because if you don't drink water when you're releasing tension in your muscles, you will make yourself physically sick because of all the, toxins it releases. But it did cause a lot of headaches, and I did that every day for I don't know how long, but eventually it did pretty much resolved 90% of my symptoms after however many years of stretching my hand, doing ulnar nerve glides, which actually made the problem worse for like 6 months. Doing muscle exercises here, there, and everywhere, doing stretching, doing yoga, meditation, breathing, and painkiller medication, all sorts. It wasn't fixing the issue. I felt like an idiot. But yeah, now I know the problem and I'd figured it out. I was able to play guitar, and the carpal tunnel symptoms went back to being minute, which is awesome. So they're still there. I still have to be really careful with any kind of grip strength oriented things. I try and only use my pinky and ring finger whenever I'm gripping anything, the steering wheel of a car, the gear stick of a car, opening doors. Yeah, I want to be able to play guitar for as long as possible and put off surgery for as long as possible, even though it's, very likely to pretty much fix the issue. I'm at a stage now where I can just play guitar now for fun. Yeah, so thanks for tuning into this video. If you have, thanks for listening to me ramble. I just needed somewhere to, organize my thoughts. I'm trying to get research approved. It's in the process of approval. so I can start research on this stuff, because I'm insanely obsessed with it and trying to figure it out so I can help people. Even if I help one person, I'm going to be over the moon, because when I was struggling with these injuries, I felt like I was the only person on planet Earth with these issues. I know I wasn't, but it felt like that. I felt like I was the only kid that played guitar with carpal tunnel, the only kid that played guitar with tendonitis, which by law of large numbers is not possible, but it felt that way because of the lack of research out there surrounding those topics, especially thoracic outlet syndrome. There's a huge gap in the literature around thoracic outlet syndrome, and I encourage other researchers and doctors to look into it, because I do think it's less of a niche diagnosis than what we think now. I think it's something that a lot of people have, but a lot of people won't ever encounter any issues with it because they won't be playing guitar hours a day, every day. They'll just be going to and from work, and they might get diagnosed with carpal tunnel, get a surgery, and then it might be, mostly fixed. I do think a lot of carpal tunnel and tendonitis is aggravated, possibly caused by thoracic outlet syndrome. This is all hunches as well, but I do think thoracic outlet syndrome is something that needs to be looked into more than it already is. I'm going to be uploading more videos about the guitar that I'm building, and I'll show you the neck profile once I've got that done. Yeah, thank you. Just a quick little build update. I'll show it on the screen now, but I've finished the frets, I think, or at least I've trimmed them. I've filed them flush with the fretboard, and I've somewhat crowned them and sanded the edges to 400 grit. I'm editing a video that's documenting the fret installation process. I'll have that uploaded as soon as I can. And thanks to everyone who watched my last video, and thanks to everyone who had a chat in the comments as well. Anyway, thanks.